So if you're not familiar with the Mega Man X series, it's the sequel series to the classic games, which released on the NES, and we had 6 Mega Man games up to this point. Mega Man's 1 to 6. So Capcom finally decided to branch the series out to new hardware, the Super Nintendo, and released Mega Man X1. And it was an absolutely amazing game. It was a much more refined version of the classic gameplay with some new mechanics like dashing, wall jumping, the light RPG mechanics such as finding upgrades to your health, getting sub-tanks, which are the replacement for the E-tanks, where you can store life energy into them and you can use it at any time. And the best part, the armor capsules. It makes you look really cool and it gives you new powers and stuff. So when at the beginning of the game you're Naked Blue X, you're at the end of the game you're this really cool armor like X, where you can have big buster shots, dashing, and all these cool powers you can have. Great game. So then we had X2 and X3. While I think X2 is better than X1, I know that's not the popular consensus, but X2 and X3 are still solid games in their own right. But I want to talk about X4, released for the PlayStation and Saturn in 1997. X4 gives us a new sight for this series, a character select screen. You can either play as X, who's exactly the same as the last 3 games. Like, he has the charge shot, buster, special weapons, yada yada yada. If you've played the next game, you know how to play as X. But we have newcomer Zero, which while he was technically an X3, because, yeah, he was an X3, there was a lot of things in X3 that were technically there, but that's another story. He's fully playable, without any caveats this time. But he has some new gameplay. Instead of his buster, he uses his Z-Saber, and yeah, I'll just come out and say this. I love his gameplay in this game. It's so much fun. But this is the foundation for the other X games when you play as him, the entire Zero series, and the ZX games when you're Model ZX. They really did make the most out of this gameplay style, and I'm glad they did because it's super fun. So before we get into the gameplay, I'm just going to say this right now. I think X4 is a nearly perfect game, and I think it's the peak of the X series. It took what didn't work in the other X games and refined what did work. They kept it simple and streamlined, and they removed all the fat. And I think it's a better game for it. Anyway, so we're in the intro stage now, the Sky Lagoon, and the music here is fantastic. And when you're in the stage, you'll notice there's some slight control differences between the SNES games and X4. The characters feel a little weightier, which isn't a bad thing, but it's different. So instead of spamming dash on the ground, you just dash jump instead, because the dash animation has a few startup frames. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but I think it's not that huge of a deal. The characters still control really amazing, and it's super fun to play. So each stage in this game is split into 2 sections, like Mega Man 8 the year prior, where if you die in Section 2, you will respawn in Section 2 and get all your stuff refilled, which is really nice, and it actually does make X4 a more breezy game, which I'll get into a little later. So, intro stage boss, really easy, just moving on to stage select. It's more of the traditional Mega Man Classic and X structure, not Classic at 7 and 8, because that did a different structure, but you know what I mean. Something to note, since the prior 2 games had this, there's no RNG boss mechanic, like Bit and Bite or the X Hunters in this game. So you can feel free to route your order in any way you like the first X, which I actually kind of preferred that in X2 and X3 because it made you have more complex routing in terms of, oh, should I fight the boss now so I can get the zero part? Or should I just fight the boss that I know is the weakness? So you pick a stage and, ooh, wow, the graphics are super nice for PS1. They really took advantage of the PS1 hardware over the Super Nintendo hardware. I wish more 2D games came out on the PS1. There's a certain charm and aesthetic that I really like. The graphics are better, the music's great. How about the stage roster, man? It is so good. There's one exception, but I'll get to it. There's super unique set pieces like the web spider section where you have to platform on the logs like Mario 2. You got the magma dragoon section where you platform, like dash jump past the falling meteors. And you get a cool ride armor too. And my favorite set piece in the entire game, Cyber Peacock stage where you have to do the speedrun challenges to get the upgrades. It's so fun just meticulously getting your wall jumps right to narrowly dodge the yellow balls that like hold you in place. Great stuff all around. There is one stage I don't like that I mentioned earlier, and it's Jet Stingrays. It's an auto-scroller ride chaser section, and it kind of drags on repeat playthroughs. Nothing too frustrating or anything, except if you're going for the sub-tank, but still an okay stage, and it's fine to have a breather level in there, but I wanted to mention it because I know it's a low point for me and a lot of other people. And on the topic of Jet Stingray, the bosses are really well balanced when you're playing without X's weaknesses anyway, where the patterns are a lot more readable, even as a first pick. Like, they're a lot more readable and approachable, unlike some bosses in X3 and X1, where it just, they walled you and they did a lot of damage. So, I usually pick Magma Dragoon or Web Spider, because Magma Dragoon gives you the ride armor, and Web Spider is just an easier boss to read. But it's more in line with X2's roster, and I really appreciate that, and I'd actually consider doing this game Buster only because of it. Speaking of Buster only, I kind of play this game Buster only because the special weapons are kind of mid for X. Like, they're not bad, but they feel a little bit too weak in the damage department, and their uses are niche. It's similar to X2 in that regard, where it's unfortunately not like X1 and X3 where all the special weapons felt useful and hit hard. But I do get a couple uses out of Rising Fire and Split Mushroom stage, and I usually use the boss weaknesses because that's Mega Man. But Zero, on the other hand, has a really unique system where he has like Smash Bros inputs for his moves, where you can do the upstab, downstab, spin slash. You have a double jump, air dash. Like, Zero's decked out in this game. Like, once you get him fully maxed out, like, he is a force to be reckoned with. I really like this approach to Zero's techniques, honestly. It makes it feel really seamless, and they even expanded on it in the Zero games, and it's even better there. But, like, I'm so glad they got the foundation for Zero right on the first try. Like, it's super satisfying. It helps that the sprite animation for Zero's saber is consistent with the, where it hits in the animation. So, like, it feels super satisfying slicing enemies with the saber. So, speaking of all those upgrades, I want to praise the routing for 100%ing this game, because, yeah, they almost got it perfect. There is a couple backtracking things you have to do if you want to get, like, all the armor as X, but first, you can basically go to town and get whatever stages you want, and you can get all through all the stages without backtracking. And it's really neat, and it does retain some of that, like, oh, where do I go next, like NX2, because if you want Zero, oh, I want the spin slash, so I would go for Split Mushroom first to get it. Or, I want to get the upstab, so I want to go to Magma Dragoon. Like, I love this kind of mechanical variety, where it's like, I'm not picking a stage because it's easy, I'm picking a stage because I want that move, so I can enhance my arsenal. So the two of the 4 sub-tanks from the SNES games got replaced with the weapon tank and the EX tank. And this is a good segue to talk about the checkpoint system again. So remember how I said if you die and get a game over, you respawn back at that checkpoint at the start of the section? It makes lives kind of meaningless because you just respawn back there, so you only have to beat half the stage, which, good, honestly. I don't like lives that much for most games. I only see it working in the games like Monkey Ball, where the whole point is to get better and to get farther in the levels. For a platformer, I don't see a need for lives in my opinion. I'd rather just them keep a death counter or something as like a reward for skilled play or something, or do what the Zero games did and do a ranking system. But here, the EX tank's kinda useless, and the weapon tank is kinda useless for X because his head part gives you infinite special weapon ammo that's uncharged, so the head part's kinda useless. But, like, the other parts are really amazing. X's 4th armor is really amazing, too. Like, the head part gives you infinite special weapon ammo, the arms, there's actually 2 arm parts in this game. One that does 4 dinky little charge shots that don't really work that well. I never use this one. But the plasma shot's awesome. It's huge, it lingers on the enemies, does a lot of damage. Yeah, the arm parts are awesome. The body part does the usual, it reduces damage, and you get the new Nova Strike, which I don't use it personally. I don't see a need because you have to fill up a meter. It's like the Giga Crush, but it doesn't do enough damage to warrant using it like the Giga Crush. And the only grievance I have with the armor is I wish the foot parts had the vertical air dash from X3. The hover is fine, it's useful, especially during Final Sigma when you're using Soul Body, but besides that, I don't use it that much. Okay, I've pretty much dissected the gameplay, like in this unscripted rant kind of style. I love this game in terms of gameplay. I have like really no grievances with it, like on the core fundamental level. The backtracking is really streamlined, the levels are all fun for the most part. X and Zero are dreams to control, and I think that's about it. Except the story. Oh, what happened here? Oh no. I don't like the story of X4. At least the Zero anyway. Let me make this very clear. I think the ideas on paper are amazing. Oh, like 2 sides that don't know they're being manipulated by an unseen force? So they're like morally gray in their actions? Oh great, that sounds really good. Like that sounds like a really good premise for a Mega Man X game. Problem. Sigma is shown in the first cutscene, so any suspense of him being there is just immediately gone. Oh, and let's talk about Repliforce. They are so dumb. Like, okay. So we have this other organization, apparently, like, I don't know what they even do. I don't think it's even explained if it is. I'm sorry, I haven't listened to watched the story of X4 in a while, but X is just like, yo, can you drop your weapons so I can question you? And he's like, no. And the Colonel's like, no. I'm like, no, my pride as a warrior is too important, and I can't answer a 2-second question to clear our name. Like, I never liked this plot thread. Like, you couldn't just tell X, yeah, that wasn't me. That was Sigma manipulating one of our men to drop the Sky Lagoon and summon the giant dragon. But other than that, I think X's story is great. Like, I like Double as an inclusion because it furthers X's character, because it's just like, oh, like Sigma betrayed him, Colonel fought him, like all these people he's known and like loved, like, are fighting him and going Maverick. So what would stop him from doing so?
ゼロ無事だったか X 心配かけさせやがってすまないもういい早く帰ってゆっくり休めなあゼロもし俺がイレギュラー化したらどうするくだらないことを聞くんじゃない切るぞ待ってくれ真剣に聞きたいんだゼロもし俺がイレギュラー化したら君が処理してくれバカなこと言ってないでさっさと戻ってこい約束だよゼロ
Of course, that never happens because the plot thread that was supposed to have him be Maverick got shelved at the last minute, and good. I don't like that trope, in my opinion. I think it's cheap and unearned. Like, I think X being a copy in the Zero games was a smart play, because it retroactively makes X a more interesting character, because it shows what happens if X didn't get trained for 30 years in the lab with Dr. Light. But Zero's story, I have way more issues with. Zero's backstory? Fantastic. He's the last creation of Dr. Wily, paralleling X as the last creation of Dr. Light. Like, it's really great stuff in terms of his backstory. Like, I love Zero's backstory, and I love that they expand on Sigma, because Sigma was once the kind-hearted leader of the Maverick Hunters, and he got corrupted by Zero, and his personality reset in that fight, too. Like, this is great stuff. Like, this is how you should write a Mega Man X game. But the story for Zero falls apart when Iris enters. I don't know if this is a hot take. Besides her design, Iris isn't a good character. What does she do in this story? Like, functionally, what does she do besides being a plot device? Like, for the plot. Oh yeah, nothing. Like, she's in 2 cutscenes. One, oh Zero, stop fighting my brother. And then the other is her dying. I don't feel anything because it wasn't built up to. Zero and Iris' relationship wasn't expanded on, so I don't care. Like, why should, like, the audience, I should care as much as the characters do, or, like, make the audience care about this, like, but no. Oh, and, Iris and Colonel being one Reploid is never explained in the game, and it's a really important plot point, because, like, that Pokeball she's holding in her fight is Colonel's soul, but that's never explained in the game, so, like, you're left in the dark on what is she doing? Like, why is she turning into purple mech robot thing when Colonel died? Oh, that's why. Because she went unstable because she's one half of a bigger project, and yeah, that failed. So yeah, that's why. Still stupid they don't explain it in the game. I might make a whole video on that in the Mega Man series. It's not just this game, by the way.
Ah! No, this isn't happening. There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for?
But it just feels like the whole middle of the plot was just cut out of the game, and it's just like, really? Like, I like the conflict of ideals between Colonel and Zero, like a warrior's pride versus doing what's right for the world, but like, it's undercooked here in a series that's already filled with undercooked ideas. Like, overall, for the story, like, I appreciate what they tried to do with X4's story, but I think X's story is fantastic for the most part, and Zero's story has a couple great ideas that are just muddied by under-executed ideas. Nothing bad or anything, but it's definitely a step back from the storytelling highs of X1 and the filler plots of X2 and X3. Yes, I said they're filler. The only thing you need to know from that game is, oh, X and Zero are gonna fight someday, and Zero's the last creation of Wily. Like, that's literally all you need to know. Like, that, in terms of the core plot structure, that's all you needed to know from those games. Okay, that's my plot rant over. Okay, time for the finale. I find these stages kind of underwhelming. In terms of level design, like, they're not that challenging in my honest opinion. Like, it's neat where the first stage is a test of your special weapons and techniques up until this point. But besides that, and you get a rematch with Colonel if you're playing as X, which is neat, but Final Weapon 1 is literally a straight line where it splits off in the middle of the stage. Like, it's not a bad level, but it's where your character-specific boss. So, Double's a fantastic boss as X, and one of the few examples of where the weakness makes the fight harder, because he spawns little drone guys that are really annoying. So I actually tend to just buster him until he has like a quarter of his health left, so I just hit him with his weakness. Iris is one of the best fights in the game too with Zero. Like, it effectively combines your up and down stabs, and it's a really good spacing tutorial in terms of like advanced play. Like, if you want the crystal not to hit you, you have to be a certain distance away from the wall in Iris, so you don't get hit by her, and you don't get hit by the giant purple laser. Like, great stuff all around. The boss of Final Weapon 1, General, is unfortunately a giant slog. As X, just stick to the wall and use buster shots. He'll die eventually. But as Zero, yeah, you do much of the same, but there's a neat little quirk of his iframe. if you do the first slash of your 3-hit combo, it does like a third of his health for no reason, and I use that every playthrough just because that fight drags on. Now that we're at Final Weapon 2, the boss rush sucks once again. Like why do these X games do this? Like, X1 was fine because it's based on all the bosses in Sigma's castle, so like I wasn't frustrated at like how tedious it was. X2 and X3 just threw all 8 of them in a room, and it takes like 10 minutes because the boss explosions take 15 seconds each. No, I'm not kidding, you lose like 2 minutes to this. It's really annoying. At 0, it's a fun test of your skills because you can't use the boss weaknesses against them because some of the bosses don't have weaknesses at 0. At X, it's a giant slog, just use their weakness on them and like beat them all, like it's not really that big of a deal. And fortunately for this game, Sigma has a really fun way to cap the game off. Yeah, Phase 1 is a joke, just use the fire weapon and it'll die in like 2 seconds. Phase 2 is a really fun test of your reflexes, like you want the scythe to hit the wall so he doesn't spawn his Australia boomerangs at you, like, because they're very annoying to dodge. It's a really fun test of just like how fast you can react to his attacks. Sigma 3 is also a fun boss fight for the most part. He switches between his head form and his gunner form. So, his gunner form is completely fine, like no attacks too annoying, but like the head form has one attack I cannot dodge consistently and I didn't get it in my playthroughs for some reason. He will shoot like projectiles, like garbage projectiles from his mouth and suck you in. So it'll do a lot of damage and there's spikes everywhere. It's an interesting attack. But once you beat Sigma, you finish the game, and yeah, I love this game. It really helped me out through some tough times, and it just brings me joy playing it even today. My final thoughts are pretty obvious given my general tone on this video, but I really like X4. It's a near-perfect game and the peak of the X series, as I said before. It's a streamlining of what did work and taking out what didn't work. It's an endlessly replayable game to me with infinite potential for rounding, 2 really fun characters to play as, amazing graphics and sound for the PS1, and it's just a dream to play. Like, spoiler alert, this is the last X game I genuinely care about, because all the other X games after this, X5, 6, 7, and 8, all have issues to varying degrees that stop me from fully enjoying them. But please, like, I implore anyone to play the X Legacy Collection and play this game on it because it's so fun. Like, I've played it, like maybe 20, 30 times and I haven't gotten sick of it yet. Like, whenever I play X4 next, it'll be a fun time. I'll see you all next review.